So I welcome everybody to this last session of November. So another month is coming and we're on the cusp of the WRC elections, just recovering from the national elections and now getting geared up for the WRC. I request everybody to please exercise their options and go and vote. So today we are very fortunate to have with us a very senior and very learned professional, Professor Vaze sir. And Bob Marley has said, the greatness of a man is not in how much wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively. And Vaze sir has been doing that for years together now. So I would like everybody to please welcome him once. And I would like to request our past convener, C.A. Chintan Shah, to give a formal introduction for Vaze sir. Thank you.
Morning, everybody, and thank you, convener, for this opportunity of introducing a very learned professional, a multifaceted personality who is involved not only in the academics and the institute for, but also in many cultural activities. So, Vaze sir has delivered lectures and written articles on taxation, banking, allied subjects, and also on code of ethics of CAs. He has delivered lectures and written articles on Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and many other social subjects. And he is always writing an article on in the BCA journal, which is on code of ethics, but with a flavor of Bhagavad Gita, with Arjun and Krishna as his characters. He's anchored musical and other cultural programs, actively involved in art and literature. He has also directed plays in Sanskrit and also worked for the promotion of the Sanskrit language, which is again the mother of all the Indian languages. He's also the president of Maharashtra Seva Sangh Mumbai, vice president of Sanskrit Bharati Konkan region, ex-chairman of Jan Kalyan Sahkari Bank, and many other responsible positions. With this short introduction, I welcome Vaze sir and request Krishna ji to please, along with the conveners and the deputy, to please hand over the memento to Vaze sir. Welcome, Vaze sir. Please.
Yes, sir. Good morning. At the outset, my unconditional apologies for slightly delayed arrival. Convener of this great study circle, JB Nagar Study Circle, Madam Vijayata Jaiswal, Deputy Convener, and my friend Seema Mehta ji, Kailash ji, Chintan ji. And I think now I know many of you on one-to-one basis because of every year ritual of this code of ethics. In fact, every year almost I have come. Last few years. So I would just like to know as to how many are there who have not heard me earlier, because otherwise same repetition I would be doing and he said, "अरे सालों से यही बात करते आ रहा है." So is there anyone who has not heard me earlier? Quite a few. So those who have heard me कंटाल गए होंगे, लेकिन वो भी वापस सुनना चाहिए. It should be hammered because जब तक हमारे सर पर कोई बैठा नहीं है तब तक हम सुधरते नहीं है. All human beings and chartered accountants particularly, because unless anything is made compulsory, we never act. That is why I always request the conveners to, because in November, December I am always booked, but JP Nagar is one such study circle who normally intimates me very in advance, always highly professionally managed, so you deserve compliments for that. I would make one more request to the conveners to become the first one of that its kind, maybe the pioneers. Every year I have been requesting that merely holding lectures, merely holding seminars doesn't help much, because the profession has become so vulnerable that you need workshops in a closed group, particularly to train ourselves as well as to train our assistants. The training of staff and articles is extremely crucial now, because the regulatory requirements are increasing so much, it is so much burdensome that it is not practicable to deal with all those things in a lecture like this. Whereas in the workshop, we can have very direct instructions. You can call experts on that. But a compact workshop will greatly help, particularly now the things which I will be narrating to you. You will realize that we are lacking too much in the compliance in discharging our duties as a profession. Now there are 4 or 5 aspects on this I speak of this code of ethics. Now those who have heard me and जो bore हुए होंगे मेरे cases वगैरह सुन के, तो they can suggest to me कि नहीं, today you deal with this particular topic. But nevertheless, I will tell you all the stories of Hitopadesh and Panchatantra, which are very enlightening for our profession. Because friends, so far I might have handled about 400 disciplinary cases, and what I speak is merely sharing the practical and live experiences of those cases. It is up to the audience to take the takeaways from that. I do highlight certain things, but time is always short, and normally it requires 3 to 4 hours for me to give the basic structure of the code of ethics. But since it's a repetition year after year, I just tell a brief 3 or 4 cases are there, disciplinary cases, which one must listen. Now this one caveat is there, ये slides, PPT वगैरह जो ज़्यादा कुछ काम का नहीं है, because I keep on telling you many things, many stories, many cases, and I do not necessarily adhere to the screen. So don't try to locate what I'm talking on the screen. It may not be available there, because many things which I talk will be outside what is mentioned. This will be shared with you. These are the basic principles on the basis of which our disciplinary cases are handled by the institute, and these things I will be sharing. So we stood up for our anthem for the institute. Ye Esha Sukteshu Jagarti, this is that motto song. And this is he who is awake when the world around is asleep. We need to be constantly awake. And of late, friends, The need for awakening is increasing day by day. The profession has become so vulnerable, friends, that it's a nightmare. Many of hundreds of chartered accountants today are on bail. Dozens of them are in jail. And this is, chartered accountants are being made as a scapegoat for no fault of theirs. Yes, the fault is there. That is the lack of diligence. But the fraudsters, who are the management people, they are doing management sponsored frauds. And which is very common nowadays. All of you know it very well. But the main victim is the chartered accountant. Because whenever there is a scandal, people say, "Arey, auditor kya kar raha tha?" Although auditor has nothing to do with those frauds quite often. Of course, there are certain standards which we apply religiously. Those frauds could have been exposed much earlier, which I'll be giving you examples. Whatever I say, I will be discussing it with actual live examples which I have myself handled. So there is no remotely कोई ने किसी ने बताया बुक में पढ़ा ऐसा नहीं है. So the first and foremost thing in the profession you must apply, no, always keep in mind, don't trust anyone as far as your signing of any document is concerned. Good faith in the profession is the most dangerous thing. You should not have faith as far as your work is concerned in your staff, in your clients, in your partners, and not even in your spouse. And you know that that is the first story I begin with. There are 2 or 3 cases which you must listen to. Then only your eyes will be slightly opened. Husband and wife, both chartered accountants. Wife signed the audit of a small housing society with 15 members only for 3 years. Then by rotation, the husband signed it for next 3 years. In the 8th year, there was a divorce petition between the two, and the wife filed a complaint to the institute that the husband took the audit without obtaining her NOC. This is a reality of life. No relations are permanent. Remember, no relations are permanent. I have handled cases, भाई ने भाई पर कंप्लेंट किया है, पिता ने पुत्र पर किया है, पुत्र ने पिता पर कंप्लेंट किया है, partners, sisters, all sorts of relationship you list down, and those complaints are existing. Chartered accountants are dragged into the disputes of some other people. Partners का झगड़ा होता है, and उसमें one partner, to exert the pressure on the other side, always files a complaint against the chartered accountants. He is under a sweet impression that chartered accountant will exert pressure on that other party. लेकिन poor fellow does not know कि chartered accountant किसी के भी ऊपर pressure डालने की क्षमता नहीं रखता है. Nobody respects him, nobody obeys. Staff, अपना staff, he is our boss only. आर्टिकल्स तो बहुत ही अभी रेयर कमोडिटी हो गए, तो हमारे बॉस ही हो गए, वही हमारा इंटरव्यू लेते हैं. तो ऐसा कोई भी नहीं है आदमी दुनिया में कि जिसके ऊपर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के ओपिनियन का इन्फ्लुएंस हो. लेट अस एक्सेप्ट दैट रियलिटी. हमने बड़े बड़े मीन्स वी हैव पास दिस वन ऑफ द टफेस्ट एग्जामिनेशंस इन द कंट्री, but after 6 months you are outdated, you are obsolete. The pace at which the things are changing, increasing only, and this is the same feeling in the advanced countries like USA. There also articles are being written that it is overburden of regulations and no commensurate reward. Therefore, one should be very, very serious our own practice, our own profession, and our next generation. बहुत सारे, not a single CA have come across is happy with the profession which he is doing. I can assure you that. But unfortunately, because I have been writing this in BCA in this Krishna Arjun, and I have been writing light elements also. And in the worldwide survey, the list of professions which are going to be obsolete, outdated because of the advent of technology, chartered accountancy profession stands at the top, from the top 3. Because now audit AI आया है अभी. Now AI से अभी इनकम टैक्स में भी क्या आ रहा है, आपको रिटर्न बना के रेडी आता है. You have to simply say yes or no. And even in audit, now it will be just because of the AI, audits also will be done online. Your role, unless you add up, firstly you have to upgrade yourselves because of the rules and regulations which are coming. Now these new standards which are coming, like independent standard. कभी कभी अच्छा लगता है, अच्छा ऑडियंस है, but I am knowing that this is for CPE. That way I am quite down to earth. But nevertheless, you will not repent. आपको regrets नहीं होगे कि ये किसका lecture सुनने को आया, ऐसा नहीं रहेगा. Because last 25 years I lost my sleep because of handling of these cases. और मेरा इतना ही intention है कि आपका एक रात के लिए sleep हराम हो जाए, इतना ही मेरा purpose है. Because yesterday Ankush bhai I met, and मेरे को इतना डर लगा कि मैं आज आऊँ कि lecture के लिए, because whatever I tell, he had it by heart. उसने वो सब बताया इंस्टीट्यूट में कि ये बोलते हैं वो बोलते हैं, मेरे को सबको भी याद पूरा है. Nevertheless, so this is the first case which I shared with you. Second case, a chartered accountant is having a proprietor for concern as for tax audit. That proprietor's married daughter comes to his office and she says she wants that chartered accountant to give attested ITRs of her husband and mother-in-law. Now he had not filed the returns, but she had brought the hard copy, she verified, everything was proper. So he said, okay, it is fine, I will just sign. And he signed in a proper manner. Now you know that there is a specific guideline of the institute as to how you attest, how you certify the things. You don't, all of you have right to write a disclaimer. I don't certify the income of that person. What I am certifying is the figures which are appearing in the public domain as per the returns filed by him. You don't develop anything. That is the institute specific guideline. On that, there are many disciplinary cases if you certify the income as income. And then he certified, and एक महीने में एक complaint आया उसके, that lady के husband ने किया था, saying that without my return authority, how did you give my attested ITR to my wife? Because the wife had filed a complaint of domestic violence against him in the court of. Again, I am repeating, no relations are permanent. बहुत चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट को लगता है, अरे ये जो मेरा क्लाइंट है ना, 30 years I am handling his matter. I am like a family member to him. I just tell them, अपना फीस 5% से बढ़ाओ and then check up whether you are still a family member to that client. I am feeling a little awkward that so many people are standing. Anyway, and the third case. But before that, another thing, as far as possible, and in urban areas it is affordable, as far as possible, avoid the work of any cooperative society, particularly cooperative housing society. Because normally in the cooperative societies, there is nothing but non-cooperation. और एटलीस्ट एक दो आदमी ऐसे रहते हैं जिनको कोई काम धंधा नहीं है, रिटायर्ड पर्सन है, गवर्नमेंट में रहते हैं, उनको एक बड़ा अथॉरिटी में रहते हैं, and their only business is to create nuisance for the managing committee and the auditor. Dozens of cases are coming from such khadus persons members in the society against the chartered accountants. And our chartered accountants are also taking the things very lightly. It's not that we are doing justice to the job. Because certain basic things also, and now I will share with you before I share the third case, I will now share with you the current happenings Last year I shared with you the DHFL matter. Yesterday I spoke at WRC on the services which are permissible and non-permissible for a chartered accountant. So today I will do the combination of three major topics. One is the normal code of ethics, the principles. Secondly, that services which are permissible and non-permissible. And the third is working paper management. What we are utterly lacking, friends, is on working paper management. And why we are lacking? Because we have never trained ourselves and we do least for the training of our staff. हमारे पास पहले आर्टिकल तो मिलते ही नहीं आजकल. अगर मिले तो हम क्या करते हैं, अरे वो अपना ऑडिट है ना उधर तो जा, कोई सीनियर रहेगा तो उसके साथ भेज देते उसको. We never give him any training background and therefore we simply keep on cursing the articles. ये articles useless है. उनको एग्जाम की ही पड़ी रहती है, उनको कोचिंग क्लास की ही पड़ी रहती है. They are not serious about the work. But we have never done anything which will arouse interest in their mind about the work. And we have never trained them as to how that work is relevant to their exam questions. Because now examinations are also becoming more and more practically oriented. They are no longer theoretical exam. So we never create interest. Now the example which I will be giving you the next will tell you how much we are ourselves lacking. Therefore, my intention is that I am not underestimating anyone, or maybe I am all very, very average and ordinary chartered accountant. मेरा कोई ऐसा आसमान से गिरा हुआ knowledge नहीं है. But because of this experience, because of this hard experience which I have seen around, I am sharing these experiences. And in between थोड़ा ये भी होना चाहिए कि today what is the image of the chartered accountant? Very accommodative. कभी ना बोलेगा ही नहीं किसी बात के लिए. We were never taught to say no. कुछ भी काम आने दो, we say yes. Now services which are permissible and non-permissible में, now one of the most important things is certain services now in terms of section 144 of the Companies Act you cannot render. Now that applies only to the corporate entities, but apart from corporate entities the principle will always follow. And therefore don't say yes at the first instance. Learn to say no. Learn to ask the client to wait for a while. हमारा क्या है, ओवर एंथुसियाज्म रहता है. अरे नया क्लाइंट आया, एट एनी स्टेज ऑफ आवर लाइफ नया क्लाइंट आया तो हम एक्साइट हो जाते हैं. प्लीज डोंट डू दैट. Simple things. Section 144 says that for the companies, chartered accountants can render only those services which are approved by the board of directors. Now, हमने board of directors के minutes के भी देखे. What services are assigned to us? What work is assigned to us is a board resolution. कभी minutes देखते हैं क्या हम? Company secretarial work we are utterly lacking. हम कभी भी secretarial work देखते नहीं हैं. हमारे जो पहले जनरेशन था उसको तो कंपनी लॉ नाम की चीज है वो भी मालूम नहीं थी. अभी that awareness is increasing because it is becoming compulsory under the Companies Act. Even appointment letter कभी नहीं लेते थे हमारे बॉस जो थे ना, वो तो चलता है गुड फेथ में, चलता है आगे आगे. Most of you will concur with me. चलता है. Now because it is made compulsory to upload the appointment letter, that we are taking the appointment letter. Otherwise it was taken for granted. But there is one further step, friends. Now, what the credibility that we enjoy, every time I mention this because it's a more disgraceful thing that the US consulate की जो checklist थी visa के लिए, उसमें ऐसा लिखा था, please avoid bringing chartered accountant certificates as the same are often found unreliable. So this is the reward you get. And you certify the assets and liabilities of the parents for the student who is aspiring to go abroad. And you never charge fees also for that because that is not your client also. Quite often he is the neighbor of your cousin. और वो आपके पास आता है help कर लेने के लिए, and always it is urgent. So certain tips I am giving you. Good faith में कुछ भी मत करो. then never say yes at the first instance. Take a pause. Because unless now कंपनी में क्या होता है, ऑडिट अपने पास आता है, देन दे से अभी यू डू टैक्स वर्क आल्सो, यू डू जीएसटी वर्क आल्सो, यू डू हमारा फाइनेंस का मैटर है वो भी. नाउ अनलेस इट इज मेंशन्ड इन द मिनट्स, you cannot take it. Otherwise, it's a violation of Companies Act, which we are not aware. So take a pause. Secondly, have professional skepticism. कि ये client मेरे पास क्यों आया? There are many cases which came in between, about 8 to 10 cases, where huge company, listed company, 10,000 crore turnover, closing stock 600 crores, बड़े बड़े CFOs, company secretaries, managers, all there in their helm of affairs, and big fours are there in statutory audit, internal audit, everywhere, बड़े बड़े नाम हैं. And that company catches hold of some small chartered accountant in JB Nagar or Borivali, and they say that they want their stocks to be certified within 4 days, for which they are willing to pay 1 lakh rupees. और वो जो न्यू एंट्रेंट इन द प्रोफेशन रहता है, उसको लगता है इज एक्साइटेड, अरे 4 दिन में और इतना बड़ा कंपनी है, सब फटाफट चकाचक दिखता है, बैलेंस शीट चकाचक दिखता है, ये सब है, तो सब ठीक रहेगा. And he certifies, there is no working paper, he doesn't know even where the stocks are located, he doesn't have any staff to note कि वो किधर visit किया उसने, there is no query, nothing is there, not a piece of paper. And उसको 1 लाख रुपए फी मिलता है, and बाद में जब कंप्लेंट आता है तो not only complaint but he is accused. वारंटी लेके आते हैं डायरेक्ट उसके घर, because the real stock is only 35 crores. Certifying is 600 crores. These are the realities of life. जैसे मैं आउट स्टेशन लेक्चर देने के लिए, जब जेबी नगर इज एन एक्सेप्शन, लेकिन मैं जब लेक्चर के लिए जाता हूँ तो कन्वीनर्स और ये जो रहते हैं, सर 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 क्या रिस्पॉन्स है, आपका नाम सुन के 250 एनरोलमेंट. उनकी कैपेसिटी 880 की रहती है, 80 या 100 की, बट 250 का एनरोलमेंट होता है. आई नो दैट इट इज फॉर CPAs. And when I start talking, there are hardly 30 faces before me. But the beauty is that everybody gets CPAs. So who is unethical? Who is unethical? We need to seriously introspect. Because कोई भी नया रूल आएगा तो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के मन में पहला क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि ये नहीं किया तो क्या हो. He never tries to appreciate the spirit of it. And since he is himself not convinced, he never conveys it to the client. जो आज अपने देश की जो financial indiscipline है, उसके इसमें I am very clear in my mind that we are mainly perhaps responsible for this, because client wants it, but we have never tried to mold his attitude. Therefore, these chartered accountants are accused. उस पे वो बेल लेना पड़ता है, उनको भागना पड़ता है. And today the lives of many chartered accountants is miserable. And हम में unity नहीं है. कोई lawyer का जो रहता है, that lawyer they won't even allow the press to mention that advocate so and so ने ऐसा किया, ऐसा नहीं. They say what business you have to mention it as advocate, just say Mr. so and so. लेकिन now there was a recent decision कि whether the code of ethics applies to chartered accountants anywhere and every time wherever he goes, or only where it applies where he is present there in the capacity as a chartered accountant. For example, अगर one chartered accountant misbehaves with a female, whether it is necessary to see that he has done it in his office or in his chartered accountant friend's office or in his client's place or in a CA conference, whether his presence was in his capacity as a CA, or wherever he goes, pleasure trip में, holiday में जा रहा है, कोई personal wedding के function में जा रहा है, there he does, even then whether the code of ethics applies, the court said yes. Why? Because the next day what will be the press report? Chartered accountant held for bribery, chartered accountant held for masterminding a fraud. chartered accountant's image is tarnished and is projected. And this is bringing disrepute to the profession. And since this brings disrepute to the profession, it's a misconduct. So it is in our own interest that wherever we go, we must maintain the dignity and the grace of the profession. And therefore, friends, I appeal to you that the future is very, very gloomy. Unless we wake up, the next generation has hardly anything to expect from the profession. And I'm very clear and blunt about it. I have surrendered my COP, that's a different story, but many people are in a mood to do that. Many chartered accountants are trying to run away from the audit practice. Signing a balance sheet, nahi. They are in the mood. All big CAs are also. Therefore, there is a terror. People are so much scared today. See, earlier there was only one disciplinary committee. Now there are 4 disciplinary committees. Itna pendency बढ़ गया. Any complaint which it takes at least 3 to 4 years for disposal. That shows the pace at which the complaints are being filed. People have understood the nuisance value. Regulators have become very active. जरा थोड़ा irregularity दिखता है तो they immediately file a complaint or they send it to the institute as information, and I will give you the examples of that. But when we accept the work, so that professional the next principle which you should always keep in mind is professional skepticism. जिसके पास वो स्टॉक सर्टिफाई करने के लिए बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट आया, ही शुड थिंक, अरे इतना बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट मेरे पास क्यों आया? This is the first skepticism. I happen to be a director of a small scheduled cooperative bank. जब बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट हमारे पास लोन भरने के लिए आता है तो हम एकदम थ्रिल हो जाते हैं, अरे ये अपने पास आया, हमारी लोन की कैपेसिटी 100 करोड़ की है, उसको चाहिए 800 करोड़, वो अपने पास आया क्यों? Unless these questions arise in your chartered accountant के माइंड में क्वेश्चन arise ही नहीं होते हैं. Questions पूछना चाहिए. The basic meaning of the word audit is to listen or hear after asking questions. अगर क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछेंगे हम तो हम बर्बाद हो जाते हैं, because there will no queries. No queries. MRL में क्या लिखना है वो भी लोगों को मालूम नहीं है. MRL बाद में क्रिएट किया जाता है, फैब्रिकेट किया जाता है जब डिसिप्लिनरी कंप्लेंट आती है. फ्रेंड्स, MRL में उस एंटिटी के कौन से बैंक अकाउंट और किधर है, दैट आल्सो यू शुड टेक इन राइटिंग. आई डोंट नो हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू आर टेकिंग दिस. बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट था, केस, दीज आर लाइव केसेस. इन अ बिग कॉर्पोरेट देयर वाज अ लोन फ्रॉम PSU बैंक, 40 करोड़ का लोन था, एंड दैट वाज नॉट रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द अकाउंट्स एट ऑल, and it was a CBI matter. And when that complaint came to me for handling, I read the CBI report where it said that 40 crores was not the new loan, it was an enhancement. So last year also 25 crore was given, and year before that also 60 crore was given. Now none of the auditors had pointed out, and it was a big corporate. And then I verified. What happens is, बैंक के लिए जो पेपर वर्क करना पड़ता है ना, रिजोल्यूशन चाहिए, ये चाहिए, वो सब देते हैं आउट एंड आउट. मिनट्स बुक में उसका रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं होता है. मिनट्स आर एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट. Minutes of not only the board and committee, minutes of what you discuss with the client are also important. People are under an impression कि ये सब सब है ना, मैं ऑडिट करता ही नहीं हूँ. मैं आई एम ए टैक्स कंसल्टेंट, आई एम ए फेमा कंसल्टेंट, आई एम ए रेरा कंसल्टेंट. ऐसा लोगों का एक प्राइड लेते हैं. जो बेसिक ऑडिट फंक्शंस है, फ्रॉम दैट दे आर रनिंग अवे. बट देन द कोड ऑफ एथिक्स अप्लाइज इक्वली टू द एडवाइजरी फंक्शंस आल्सो. फॉर एग्जांपल, क्लाइंट अपने को काम पे लगाता है, ही आस्क्स सम क्वेरीज. We do a lot of research, we take so many efforts, and when we are ready with the answer, he says, नहीं sir, हमने वो स्कीम ड्रॉप कर दिया. First and foremost thing, कोई भी query पूछता है तो develop a habit, you send an email query to me. 50% query ऐसे ही ड्रॉप हो जाएगी. go to any office, go to any municipality office, जिला परिषद ऑफिस, उधर का प्यून भी अपने से स्मार्ट रहता है. हम कुछ मांगेंगे तो उधर सर एक एप्लीकेशन दे दो ना. First, that something should come from him in writing, because afterwards क्या होता है कि whatever counter questions you are asking, those also should be in writing. That is working paper. Now, for example, there's a query on capital gain 54F, so then you should ask questions whether you already have one or two houses, what are the conditions, all that. All that is necessary, and therefore, friends, minutes. Now I come to the third part. So the image is कि chartered account, and what is the image further? कि कोई काम people are, and जो chartered accountant की image है ना, these are the people who manage everything. Chartered accountants are the people who manage everything. Even CPAs also will manage. So therefore, that is the image which the profession has. And therefore, friends, the president of the institute has on open forum has told that finance या other departments में government के जो secretarial level पे जो लोग हैं, none of them is in favor of chartered accountants. None of them. And not because Modi ji's remarks, but because of their personal experiences. See, it's a very horrifying situation. Therefore, हम गवर्नमेंट को एंड में हम हमेशा we keep on कोसते रहते हैं, ये ऐसा किया हुआ वैसा, but we are not aware. They say share the exposure draft. New regulations come, new standards are prescribed, all that happens, and they ask you the suggestions. Now, perhaps I'm sure JP Nagar would be one of the rarest study circles who will be making representations on such matters. But if we are not doing, we are not even taking cognizance that any such exposure draft has come. और बाद में वो पास हो जाने के बाद अरे क्या नॉनसेंस है, ये क्या एकदम बकवास किया है, वी कैनॉट फॉलो इट. अरे तो 6 महीने पहले आपको एक्सपोजर ड्राफ्ट दिया था तो क्या कहा थे आप? See, we are in our slumber. हम जब तक नींद से जागते नहीं है तब तक हमारा फ्यूचर, एंड लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि 30 years का मेरा अनब्लेमिश्ड करियर है. क्योंकि एनी कंप्लेंट व्हेन कम्स इट सेज 30 years का मैंने कभी ये नहीं हुआ, अनब्लेमिश्ड मेरा करियर है. तो डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी बोलती है यू कंसीडर योरसेल्फ एज लकी दैट यू आर नॉट एक्सपोज्ड अर्लियर, क्योंकि जो पकड़ा गया है वो चोर. जब तक आप और कैसे भी कहां से भी एक्सपोज हो जाते हैं. तो द थर्ड केस नाउ आई एम कमिंग टू. And in the field of ethics, also you should remember that you are either ethical or unethical. There is no between them. लोग बोलते हैं हाँ but by and large I am ethical. नहीं तो कोई फायदा नहीं है. You should be ethical 100%. Otherwise it has no meaning. So that ethical requirement, and then people also say कि ये ethics हमारे माथे पे ही burden क्यों है? But today, friends, grass is always greener on the other side of the pasture. All professions are suffering from this. There is a crisis of credibility. There is a crisis of courage. Chartered accountancy has become a spineless profession. We cannot put our foot down कि हम ये नहीं करेंगे. We cannot be assertive. We cannot afford to be assertive because we always have a sense of insecurity कि ये client जाएगा. जब तक आपके पास से थोड़ा क्लाइंट नहीं जाते तब तक आपका रिस्पेक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा. You should have courage to say, of course it's very easy to say from the dais, लेकिन जो hard realities of life आजकल फेस करनी पड़ती है, that I am aware. But then unless you are curt and you respect your own profession, and unless you respect your own signature, the world is not going to recognize and respect your signature. Because if you do some compromises while signing any document, that same client for whom you are obliged, he will himself lose respect about you. And he will tell others, अरे वो वजह है ना, I know, उसके पास से कौन सा भी डॉक्यूमेंट मैं साइन करा के ला सकता हूँ. This is the image, this is the word that spreads. You feel that you have accommodated him. You feel that you have served him. तब तक वो थैंक यू बोलेगा. बाद में फिर 1 महीने के 2 महीने के बाद देगा, that's another story. But he will spread a word to tarnish your image. कि मैं वजह से वो जाओ ना, वो वजह सर के पास जाओ, कोई भी डॉक्यूमेंट साइन करके देता है आपको. This is dangerous. There's a private limited company. The firm was very senior firm, 75-year-old firm. And the client 25 years से private limited company उनके audit that firm is doing. And that company has only 2 directors, both only 2 shareholders, only 2 brothers of each other, सख्खे भाव एकमेकांचे से. Elder brother is holding 60%, younger brother is holding 40%. And any commercial relationship, उसमें थोड़ा ना थोड़ा friction होता ही है. Take it for granted. क्योंकि ये कलयुग है. तो on 26 September and 30th September was the last date of filing. The younger brother comes to the chartered accountant's office and said, sir, आपने अभी audit वगैरह पक्का किया है, अच्छा है, but my brother is very busy. So what you do, you put your signature, I will take it, and then we will sign and then we will submit. I obtain my brother's signature. In good faith, that partner of that CA firm did that. He put his signature, gave it to him. He submitted, he uploaded the returns, and within a month's time, there was a complaint against that particular partner who signed the balance sheet. And what was the complaint? There were 2 grounds of complaint. Please listen to this very carefully because these are eye openers. First ground was that 2 directors' signature is required under the Companies Act, whereas here only 1 director had signed. So this is a violation of Companies Act and therefore he is guilty of misconduct. This is the first violation. And many people, many chartered accountants are under an impression कि 2 director का signature हो गए तो बात खत्म हो गई. This is wrong. Signature is a subsequent thing. Signature is a secondary thing. What is of utmost importance or what is of prime importance under the Companies Act is the approval of financial statements in the board meeting. Unless board meeting approves and minutes it, it has no value. Even if directors sign, 2 ने 4 director ने sign किया तो भी उसको value नहीं है, unless you prove that it was approved. And now friends, we do so many things for the clients. We give the accountant or we only do the accounting, we only prepare the balance sheet, we only prepare the director's report, queries भी हम लिखते हैं, उनके replies भी हम लिखते हैं. And then MRL also we write, everything we write, notes to accounts we only prepare. Lekin one small letter from them that these accounts were approved in the board meeting held on such and such. A simple letter, 1 liner. How many of us take? None. Because that is going to save you. Friends, all the complaints, 95% of the complaints are such that there is a dispute among the directors, dispute among the trustees, dispute among the managing committee members, and then since there is no company secretarial record, people disown everything and they say कि हमारा एक जो था committee में के जो आदमी, he was interacting with the chartered accountant or they were hand in gloves और उन्होंने क्या लफड़े किया हमें मालूम नहीं. We never received any notice of the meetings were never had. There is no balance sheet, हमने balance sheet कभी देखा ही नहीं है. This is their normal complaint. I am just appealing to you, I am trying to caution you कि ऐसे you कभी आप trap हो जाएंगे पता नहीं. Therefore, this is next mantra which I am giving you, that please on a hard copy every year, please obtain the signatures of all directors or all trustees or all managing committee members or all partners of that auditing firm. No one should be able to say कि मुझे balance sheet कभी दिखाया ही नहीं था. Many, there could be at least 50 complaints on this point. उनका ही आपस में झगड़ा है and they are complaining against the chartered accountant saying that balance sheet कभी बताया नहीं and chartered accountant was in collusion with that other person. So this is the first thing, that please obtain signature. Yesterday, it was a pleasant surprise for me. In a letter, I mentioned that Ankush Bhai mentioned all the cases which I, but he still has started insisting that it should be signed first counter signature of the auditee and then only you sign. Unless you follow that, there's one case where people always say कि अपने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के दिमाग में टाइम बाइंग का एक रहता है क्योंकि एवरी डे वी आर कमिटिंग मिसकंडक्ट. तो व्हाट हैपेंस इज कभी पूछते सर ये कितने साल को कंप्लेंट आता है बिकॉज they remember the sins which they have committed for all last 17 years also. अरे ये तो पढ़ा है वजह सर ने बताया लेकिन गड़बड़ है अपना भाई ने तो ये नहीं किया था. Then I tell them there is a loose kind of time barring of 7 years. That means the complaint should be filed normally within 7 years from the date of the occurrence of the event, occurrence of the signing of balance sheet, for example. But it is not a blanket time barring unlike in income tax. It says that there is a conditional that if the president is satisfied or the director is satisfied that because of the influx of time, the production of evidence will be difficult. Otherwise, it will be rather impossible to complete or to take the case to the logical end. If he is satisfied, only then he can refuse to entertain the complaint. So it's a very loose type of time barring. It's not a blanket time barring. So what happens is, and I will quote you another very live instance, very case which, and we are also quite often, maybe we will be trapped into that. There was a will prepared by a lady. That lady died after 12 years after preparing the will. And when the will was opened, that one chartered accountant had signed it as a witness, but that lady had not signed it at all. ये वेरी कॉमन इंस्टेंसेस. क्या हुआ होगा, वो बेचारा चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट ऑफिस में बैठा है, कोई आए लोग, सर ये ना उनकी जो आंटी है ना, शी दैट आंट इज वेरी मच क्रिटिकल बेसिस हॉस्पिटल में है, सो डॉक्टर्स हैव एडवाइस कि अभी अगर आपका बिल वगैरह बना चाहिए, लॉयर्स आल्सो एडवाइस, तो बस यू पुट योर सिग्नेचर, वी विल गो ऑब्टेन हर सिग्नेचर. चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स आर वेरी गलीबल, दे आर ब्लैकमेल्ड लाइक एनीथिंग. सर कीजिए ना साइन. अभी विटनेस कोई भी चलता है. व्हाई चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट शुड अवॉइड साइनिंग एज विटनेसेस, आई एम टेलिंग यू. Whether drafting services also can be rendered by chartered accountant or not is also questionable, because Bar Council has filed a case against the institute, had filed that drafting services is the monopoly of lawyers under the Advocates Act. But then our institute had perhaps taken a stand that whatever is incidental to the services which we render, for example, partnership hoga ya will hoga, the services which we render, whatever is incidental to that drafting we will be doing. So what service we are eligible to render is also a question mark. And therefore, friends, don't sign anything unless that other person, and be uncompromising on that. Be uncompromising on. Kabhi kuch kya hoga, you can't say. There was one chartered accountant in Sangli district who expired on 30th of September. Sometimes the director, chairman, if he passes away, then all old minutes cannot be fabricated also. I am telling all these things bluntly because these are the realities of life. Minutes, friends, unless you see the minutes, and now audit trail is there. NAFRA, NAFRA is putting penalty of 10 crore rupees, and all the big firms that taking junior partners to sign the balance sheet because everybody is afraid of signing the balance sheet. Now I share with you the DHFL episode which I had shared last year also, but it is always necessary to keep on hammering. DHFL में क्या हो रहा था last 15-20 years? DHFL bubble was burst in 17-18 financial year, and NAFRA was constituted by the notification dated November 18. Now, What DHFL was year after year doing was appointing in the annual general meeting the statutory auditors, and then the board used to appoint the branch auditors. Now there were about 200 and odd branches, and there were 30 to 40 branch auditors appointed. Everybody allotted around 3 to 4 branches average. Now the appointment letter was issued by the board saying that you are in consultation with our statutory auditors, you are hereby appointed as the branch auditor for these branches. This is the format in which you have to prepare your report, and you have to address the report to the statutory auditor. And the remuneration will be paid by the company, obviously. This was the appointment letter received by all. And this was being received for them for many years. और चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट का क्या रहता है, एवरीथिंग एज पर लास्ट ईयर, कॉपी पेस्टिंग. There are cases, friends, where copy pasting इतना हुआ कि किसी ने L&T का रिपोर्ट का कॉपी पेस्ट किया था, तो उसके प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी में उसने L&T का नाम भी डाला. उसकी कंपनी का टर्नओवर था 80 लाख, फालतू टाइप कंपनी, एंड उसमें सिंस ही कॉपीड इट फ्रॉम L&T रिपोर्ट, योर नाम भी L&T आ गया उसमें. This is the state of affairs. This is the state of affairs. Very pathetic. The manner in which we chartered accountants are performing our duties is pathetic. The sooner we wake up, the better it is. क्योंकि अपने नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को ऐसा लगता है कि प्रोफेशन ऐसे ही किया जाता है. If we are not upgraded ourselves, if we are not updated, better say no to a particular. And now today, friends, QRB and FRRB has become so dangerous, and abhi to queries, what kind of queries they are asking? You are writing auditor's report, but under the new regime you have to write independent auditor's report. Now the word independent you have not written. This is one of the misconducts. In the last year's report, format is changed. For example, last year it was in clause 13 subclause E, one particular information. Now, because of the change format, it has become in clause 14, subclause B. Now, poor chartered accountants, what they do is, old format के E में भी लिखते हैं और B में भी लिखते हैं, but E में क्यों लिखा आपने, वो अभी format में नहीं है, फिर भी लिखा, अरे but I have disclosed the information. But QRB and FRRB people are pointing, because they are chartered accountants and they are paid hefty amounts for taking out the drawbacks in your report, friends. पहले क्या था, गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसर को किधर देखने को टाइम है, उसको भी क्या समझता है. दिस वाज द टोटल अप्रोच ऑफ द चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स. बट नाउ दे आर हायरिंग चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स ओनली टू फाइंड आउट द फ्लॉज. एंड फ्रेंड्स, देयर आर एटलीस्ट 12 चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स फ्रॉम अहमदाबाद, काकीनाडा एंड ऑल कोलकाता. दे हैव शेयर्ड विद मी, सर हमने ये ऑडिट नहीं लेना चाहिए था, क्योंकि हमको इंड एस वगैरह का हमारा एक्सपोजर ही नहीं. नाउ दे टेक ऑन द ग्राउंड के भले लिस्टेड कंपनी है, लेकिन अभी टर्नओवर 4-5 करोड़ ही, अभी वो सिंकिंग कंपनी है. बट दैट इज नॉट एन एक्सक्यूज. दैट कैन नॉट बी द प्रिटेक्स्ट कि छोटा कंपनी है इसलिए आपने थोड़ा रिपोर्टिंग किया. नो, व्हाटएवर अप्लाइज टू द लिस्टेड कंपनी हैज टू बी देयर. And then many people are confessing, sir, the greatest blunder that we committed in life was to become a CA. And further blunder was to enter the practice. And these are the words not of small chartered accountants. These are the words of many big firm partners of big firms. I'm very honestly telling you all this because now there is a trend of running away from audit. Now I come to that story which so this was the first thing, that one simple letter you should take saying that these financial statements were approved by the board meeting held on such and such date. One single liner, but that will save you. This is the first. You should not only verify the minutes, but you should verify the attendance register. Because people say, अरे मैंने वो meeting attend ही नहीं किया था, then what will you say? The corresponding visiting fees were paid or not. And this is all guideline of the institute. It's not only my telling you or my experience, but this is the guideline of the institute that you should verify the minutes to that extent. And the next ground was another thing for our introspection. The next ground is another eye opener. Next ground he said कि one of the cars of the company is registered in the name of only that elder brother. It is not registered in the name of the company. But the auditor did not make any comment on this. Now you introspect कि हम कितनी बार व्हीकल का रजिस्ट्रेशन कंपनी के नाम पे है कि नहीं देखते हैं. Because people will come arguing with me कि अरे depreciation मिलता है. Their view is that income tax में depreciation मिला तो हो गया सब. But whether as an audit compliance this is proper, whether that particular asset really stands in the name of the entity whose assets and liabilities you are certifying. That clearly showed that that brother had a friction with the elder brother as well. इसलिए ये पॉइंट निकाला उसने. Now ये अपने को ही मालूम नहीं तो how will you train the staff and articles कि registration or asset deck. Unfortunately, friends, I have seen chartered accountants, small chartered accountants certifying the balance sheet purely on ledger entries, purely in book entries. They don't see any other incidental document. For example, factory construct हुआ है या asset purchase किया है तो whether registration fee, stamp duty, capitalization हुआ है कि नहीं, interest capitalization हुआ है कि नहीं, all this is totally ignored by. Just the purchase price which is paid. Now another area of this cases are coming. Now the DHFL, क्या है मैं एक स्टोरी में से दूसरी स्टोरी में जाता हूँ. तो DHFL में let me complete two director story by just one sentence. आपको अचरज लगेगा कि इतना बड़ा उनका cordial relationship for more than 25 years है तो वो डायरेक्टर ने कंप्लेंट किया ही क्यों against this chartered accountant firm, and that's such a reputed firm. The reason was that director had approached the firm with a request to accommodate his daughter as a dummy article which the firm had refused. उसका खुन्नस निकालने के लिए उसने ये कंप्लेंट किया. He tried to understand the nuisance value of the people. You cannot afford to antagonize anyone. हर एक के हाथ में इतना बड़ा nuisance value है to make your life miserable. मेरा लेक्चर सुनने के बाद लोग बोलते हैं आपका लेक्चर बड़ा डरावना रहता है. लेकिन unless there is a fear, we will not improve. I am not saying we will not improve. There has to be a fear. And आज तक वो fear इतना नहीं था, but last 10 to 15 years, friends, it is becoming so rampant. If I give you the statistics, now I am doing exclusively this, and every day there is not a single day exception. Every day new matter is. Every day. You can imagine the extent to which this particular nuisance has increased. So this was for your introspection as the simple letter from the company that this was approved. Then to recapitulate, firstly, no good faith, cooperative societies ka as far as possible avoid. Then obtain. Now in DHFL, next point which is coming is so obtain signatures of all the managing committee members, directors, whosoever are there, all the name on the financial statements. In DHFL, this type of appointment letter was given. When the NAFRA was appointed and NAFRA issued notices to all branch auditors of DHFL, and there were many other points, but two main points which I had shared with you last year also, but it is better to revise. They said, you first and foremost is that you under section 143(8) of the new Companies Act 2013, even the branch auditors are required to be appointed by the AGM. What they were doing was only AGM was appointing only the statutory auditors. So they said your appointment itself is invalid. Going to the fundamental, Then we argued, अरे अच्छा हुआ अगर हमारा appointment invalid है, that means you don't have jurisdiction on us. Because NAFRA has jurisdiction on the statutory auditors. But they said no, without prejudice to this. Because they are authorities, so they can say anything. आप उनसे कौन पंगा लेगा? So, firstly this. Now, normally branch auditor ka, except for bank is again governed by Banking Regulation Act. So perhaps this particular thing may not apply there. But then our chartered accountants, the DHML branch auditors tried to argue कि हम तो branch auditor नहीं थे, हमने we addressed the report to the statutory auditor. Otherwise, if we were auditors, we would have addressed it to the members because statutory auditor has to address the report to the members. So they were arguing that all this कि अभी escape कैसा करें? But then they said no, then it was not a statutory audit at all. The company had appointed us as branch auditor. We addressed the report to the statutory auditor. So this was not a statutory audit at all. So they were very happy कि हमने क्या argument brilliant किया है. But then I told them कि ये सब ठीक है, intelligent argument. But then you have certified the tax audit of that branch because normally bank branch का tax audit भी branch auditor ही करता है. In the form 3CA what you have written, we have carried out the statutory audit under the Companies Act. So in 3CA, you are making a statement, you are admitting that you are the statutory auditor. It was very difficult to reconcile these two statements. So this was one allegation on them from NAFRA. The second allegation was another eye-opener because we are not aware of amendment in that 143(8). Many of us may not be aware. Amendment in the section 144 also we are not aware, which I pointed out to you that whatever service you render to a private limited company, that service has first to be approved by the board. The board must resolve that the tax work should be allotted to the CA or whatever. Whether you can render that service is a different story. But first and foremost is that otherwise your you may not be even entitled to raise an invoice because companies are also very smart. They say your service we have never assigned to you at all because हमारे board के meeting में वो approved नहीं है. Some director who is disputing will say that these chartered accountants should not be paid any fees for their tax services because in the board meeting it is not there and he might be having some dispute with the board. Many disgruntled directors are there. There was one very reputed organization and there was one director who was in the voting, he was not re-elected. He attended the board meeting. He congratulated the auditors कि आपने बड़ा अच्छा काम किया. Everything was there. But how mischievously they act. When the AGM was there, unfortunately the documents which were otherwise ready, it can be evidence that yes, it was ready, it was approved, and that same person had also complimented the auditor कि आपने अच्छा काम किया. Since he was not re-elected, what he did was, when the balance sheet was sent to him for actually formally signing, because everything was in good faith, so AGM happened, everything happened properly. He mischievously, when balance sheet, just for regularizing everything, to make everything in order and prepare the file, they sent the balance sheet for his signature, or other directors had sent. He mischievously, because AGM had taken place in September, for example. When the balance sheet was, and he was outstation, he was in Bangalore or somewhere. He put his signature and mischievously put the date as say 12th of November. And he struck it off. That was a clear evidence कि director का signature 12 November को हुआ है. And this auditor also, it was a very big reputed firm. But they were trapped and he was held guilty. So much we argued कि it is clearly evidence that the balance sheet was ready, financial statements were approved in the board. That same complainant is writing to me that आपने balance sheet अच्छा किया and everything is in order. Still they did not entertain. That brings me to another very, very important aspect, friends, because our elections are there. Very important aspect now I am going to share with you, friends. These are my sentiments, which are very strong, because I have experienced it. So, and unfortunately, when the hearing of the complaint, that particular director had expired. And the poor, that chartered accountant was a partner of a very reputed firm, was held guilty because of this. That means how they are signing, what date they are putting, that also you should carefully see. Unless you know the gravity of all this, we will not see that. And friends, now another very important aspect. If you are really awake, then I tell you that more and more awakening is required. Friends, in the disciplinary committee now, under the new act which is already passed but it is not yet implemented, disciplinary committee all these years consisted of 3 council members and 2 government nominees. Government nominees are becoming more and more dominating because they don't have good impression about chartered accountants. I told you this expressly that this was shared with by the ex-president only. So firstly, they are against the chartered accountants. Secondly, with the amendment, there will be 3 government nominees and 2 central council members. And the president will be a government nominee. Now you can imagine what will be the fate of the hearings, what will be the fate of the disciplinary committee. That is why I am telling you, friends, appealing to you that हमने जो जनरल इलेक्शन में जो लोग वोटिंग करते हैं हम उसी प्रकार से वोटिंग करते प्लीज अवॉइड दैट बिकॉज there are 4 benches and unless that our council member is strong enough and knowledgeable enough and respectable enough, he will not be able to prevail on the opinion of the government nominee. Therefore, please avoid voting on the basis of community and basis of ये अपना आदमी है वगैरह. You are going to be very dangerous, friends. See the competence of that person. Can we mention anyone that yes, he is our leader and we are proud of that leader? ऐसा है क्या कोई अपने प्रोफेशन में एंड अपने इसमें हिस्ट्री में? वेरी फ्यू all time said there कि we are proud कि ये हमारे प्रेसिडेंट है. Are we having that kind of caliber today? Whom we are electing? बट हम अनपढ़ आदमी जैसा ही वोटिंग करते हैं. दैट इज द ट्रेजेडी ऑफ द प्रोफेशन. हमारे जैसे फिर आपको लीडर मिलेंगे. सी कोई डॉक्टर रेपुटेड रहता है तो पूरी सोसाइटी में उसका रिस्पेक्ट है. कोई अच्छा एडवोकेट है, पालकी वाला है, जेठमलानी है, सालवे जी है, उनका पूरा रिस्पेक्ट रहता है, पूरी सोसाइटी में रिस्पेक्ट रहता है कि ये अच्छा लॉयर है. लेकिन ये अच्छा ऑडिटर है ऐसा कोई इमेज है क्या किसी? And one of the toughest courses in the country. जिसका रिजल्ट एक खत के उंगली पे परसेंटेज जिसका रहता है उसका इतना रिजल्ट है, लेकिन देयर इज नो वन वी कैन से कि ये हमारा लीडर है, ये हमारा इतना बड़ा अच्छा ऑडिटर है. गवर्नमेंट का एक थिंकिंग है फ्रेंड्स एंड वी आर नॉट टेकिंग दैट सीरियसली. व्हाई गवर्नमेंट इज अगेंस्ट अस? देश से आज तक इतने स्कैंडल्स हुए हैं आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस 75 इयर्स में, 80 इयर्स में. नॉट ए सिंगल स्कैंडल इज एक्सपोज्ड बाय द ऑडिट और द ऑडिटिंग कम्युनिटी. एक भी स्कैंडल ऐसा नहीं है कि जो ऑडिट ने एक्सपोज किया है. व्हाट डज इट इंडिकेट? इट इंडिकेट दैट वी आर accommodating. And this is getting exposed now in the regulators also, and therefore regulators are filing regular complaints. SEBI, RBI, ROC, income tax, GST, all departments, NSC, all people are filing regular complaints to the institute now. That is why I am again appealing to even the conveners to try to hold workshops where these things are focused. Otherwise, we are not going to improve and the profession simply is not going to improve and our condition also is not going to improve because people are taking it for a ride. You can't even imagine कि कहाँ से कहाँ पर complaint जाएगा आपका. There was an executor and trustee company, and they execute the wills of the clients after their decease, of course, after they expire. And there was one will which was being executed by an executor trustee company. Their officers, managers were there, and that deceased person's lady was deceased person's daughter was interacting with the company. So she said, "नहीं, इसका interpretation ऐसा होना चाहिए so that she will get more property." But the officer's manager did not listen to her. So she wrote a complaint to the board. She wrote a letter. You please instruct your managers to interpret the will properly. But board also did not heed to her request. So what she did, to teach a lesson to the board and the directors, she engaged some other chartered accountant to find out the flaws in the balance sheet and audit of that company. So that we don't have unity. Even bhajiwalas, rickshawalas are better organized than us as far as the profession togetherness is concerned. Here we meet only for GST lectures. Here we meet only for income tax cases lectures. We never ever meet for having discussion, sharing the experiences of the professional life. And हम सिर्फ रोते रहते हैं आपस में, कुछ मजा नहीं रहा है, क्लाइंट सुनता नहीं है. We keep on cursing the client, ये client useless है, उसके पास कोई अकाउंटेंट नहीं है, सब हमको ही करना पड़ता है. These are our usual grievances. The institute had issued a notification that non-maintenance of books and accounting record by a chartered accountant is a misconduct. How many of us write our own books of account regularly? आप कहेंगे अभी हम 44 ADI में जाते हैं और whatever. बट हमने कभी लाइफ में हमारे खुद के बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट प्रॉपरली लिखे हैं क्या? Last 10-20 years, I don't think. Now, what moral right we have to blame the client? ये client useless है, उसके पास accounts नहीं है, उसके पास accountant नहीं है, record नहीं है, हमारे पास है क्या? Therefore, this is a disgrace to us that the council had to issue a notification that non-maintenance of accounts by a chartered accountant is a misconduct. That means it is a recognition of the fact that chartered accountants are not maintaining their own books of accounts. अभी क्या चाहिए उसके beyond क्या चाहिए? But I'm telling you why we should be more cautious now is the first is this case now I'm sharing. So he pointed out some technical flaws कि ये AS में ये नहीं है, AS3 नहीं किया है, cash flow, AS18 का कुछ गलती है, but that had nothing to do with firstly the true and fair view, and secondly her grievance. Her grievance तो कोई अलग ही है. So he filed a complaint to the ROC notice. ROC ने सभी डायरेक्टर को समन किया and ऑडिटर को भी समन किया. Now they pointed out कि ये frivolous complaint है, वो उसमें के दम नहीं है. तो he said okay, but अभी complaint आया है ना मेरे सामने, तो you have to dispose of. So he said okay, we will compound it. 5,000 सभी लोग भर डालो, शांति. Everybody paid 5,000, auditor also paid, directors are now sleeping comfortably. But the auditor is facing the music for last 6 years. Because ROC, such cases where there is no revenue loss, where nobody is otherwise adversely affected, the government is not affected. So what they do is, they just pass it on as information to the institute. They don't file a complaint. Such type of information cases are arising now. And therefore, friends, you may not even dream कि अरे यहाँ से वहां से ऐसा रूट होके वो कंप्लेंट मेरा आया, because that had nothing to do with it. The grievance कोई अलग ही था. ऐसी थोड़ा कम करते ही ले. I hope you are all in understanding all this, the gravity of it. Because and therefore this should be a very regular phenomenon. And these are simple things which we are easily able to do, but we either don't understand or we don't have the series. And by doing these simple things, you can create a protection for yourselves. But that we need to do. Now, I'll come to the next aspect. So, why the need for code of ethics? Because all professions are suffering from this crisis of credibility. किसी भी प्रोफेशन पे अभी आपका भरोसा नहीं रख सकते, डॉक्टर पे भी नहीं. But why this in Kali Yuga this is happening is because जब डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं तो इसे अरे अपने को अननेसेसरी टेस्ट करवा लेता है, देन ब्लड पैथोलॉजी कर लेता है, रेडियोलॉजी करा लेता है वगैरह सब कीप ऑन लिविंग, उनका सब मेंटेन रहता है, उनका रैकेट रहता है, ऑल दैट विल डू. बट देन देयर आर मेनी कंप्लेंट्स against the medical legal complaints against the doctors, because why? Even if he gives you correct medicine, if he has not followed the protocol of diagnosis, he is still blamed for misconduct. अभी आपका प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट का वैल्यू कम है. Whether you have followed all the guidelines and the procedures prescribed by the standards is important. Therefore, your professional judgment को अभी वैल्यू लेस हो गई है. Usually we used to say देखिए ये क्लाइंट हमको सब मालूम है, ओवरऑल स्मॉल क्लाइंट्स यूज्ड टू बी देयर, हमको सब मालूम है, थोड़ा इधर कन्वेंस एक्सपेंडिचर मिसलेनियस में गया होगा, एंटरटेनमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर स्टाफ वेलफेयर में गया होगा, बट बियॉन्ड दैट एवरीथिंग इज प्रॉपर. सो वी से ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू. Now, unfortunately, in the disciplinary committee, they recognize that this is a technical error, but then error and misconduct makes a distinction that they are now not recognizing. Every error is being treated as a misconduct. Although the Calcutta High Court had said it is a misconduct, every error is not a misconduct. क्योंकि एरर फ्री बैलेंस शीट आज तक दुनिया में कोई बनाई नहीं. 100%. So every error is not a misconduct. Even a blunder is not a misconduct. Even a negligence is not a misconduct. It should be gross negligence, because the wording was gross negligence. And what is gross negligence? There should be an element of dishonesty or ill motive when signing the balance sheet. Now people will say, when we argue it, people argue कि मैंने बैलेंस शीट साइन किया है, बट मेरा कोई मोटिव नहीं था. I had no dishonesty. I had done it in good faith to help that company, to my friend. Then they come to argue कि आपका कोई एक अच्छा दोस्त है, very honest person, very upright person, integrity, he is a good engineer. He doesn't know much of accounts, but he brings to you some balance sheet. उसके अकाउंटेंट ने बनाए हुए हैं, and he expects you to sign it, and you oblige him. You say, this I have done. He's a good friend. He's a nice person. He's an honest person. वो हैंकी पैंकी नहीं करता है कुछ. So I am signing the balance sheet. मेरा ये मोटिव नहीं है, मेरा डिसऑनेस्टी नहीं है. But people don't realize, chartered accountants don't realize that signing without verification itself is a dishonesty. And there is an express clause in the schedule that signing, because your signature is a hallmark of your having verified the thing. So this itself is a, because see your signature, on the basis of your signature, many people are taking their own decisions, like banker or financial institutions or so many other people. Therefore, you don't realize that you have acted dishonestly. You don't realize that ill motive is not there, but dishonesty is certainly there, because you have put your that signature without verification itself is a dishonesty offense. Otherwise, कोई भी करेगा. And that's exactly what happened in PwC's case in Satyam. PwC's case, what they argued to the finance minister, इतना बड़ा corporate, international, उनको golden peacock award for governance. They are showing 10,000 crore fixed deposit in the balance sheet with a nationalized bank, and they are showing us the receipt. Should we not trust them? The finance minister said, if the people The readers of the balance sheet cannot trust the auditors for a deposit of 10,000 crore rupees. Then why is audit required at all? You put your signature, good faith, on the reputation of both their reputation and their reputation. मैं audit क्यों चाहिए फिर? Friends, first we do gross negligence only. Now they have added a gross negligence or lack of due diligence. And I will share with you example of this. What is the distinction between that? Okay, now. ठीक है, you have heard me so many times, so you won't miss much. But a big company, 600 crore turnover and 100 crore term loan from a PSU bank. Company having mines in Orissa, corporate office in Mumbai. As soon as the AD unit goes NPA, the first victim is the chartered auditor. All these banks, nationalized and other banks, they have a system कि एक बार कोई भी ये NPA होगा, first is a complaint against the auditor. Although there must be a collusion between their management, bank's management and the company's management while granting the loan. But since it has gone NPA, auditor को पहला drag him into the litigation because they want to protect the skin on their own managers, bankers, and they will pay fat fees to the advocates and solicitors, and they will file a complaint containing about 2,000 pages, which I have handled so far. इतना बड़ा बड़ा उनका वॉल्यूम, बिकॉज लॉयर को फीस जस्टिफाई करना पड़ता है. लॉयर उनके पास से 5 लाख रुपया लेता है, तो he will have to prepare a big document. So, and such type of, you imagine the plight of the director discipline, friends. ऐसे complaints आते हैं रोज 3-4 with hundreds of pages. How will they tackle it? And therefore there is a pendency 3 to 4 years minimum. So what is important is end result क्या होगा वो बात अलग है. That tension which you carry for all that those years is also a punishment in itself. So NPA हुआ, that firm came to me, complaint आया. Complaint में they have shared with me all the working papers and it was excellently maintained. For me it was a learning कि आपने इतना अच्छा working paper जो जैसा book में लिखा जाता है वैसा किया आपने. I complimented them and working paper में भेज दिया. 1.5 साल के बाद, because ये बड़ा complaint था ना, तो 1.5 साल के बाद those partners again came to me and they said, sir, Abhi Institute has asked us only 2 questions. One is whether you had written to the banks independently for verifying the transactions or verifying the balances. Firm ने कहा, sir, we have not written to the bank, but we have the photocopies of all the bank statements with us and it is reconciled. Said excellent. वो भेज दीजिए. And secondly, whether you had written to the debtors and creditors for verification. Third party evidence को utmost importance है, which we are ignoring, friends. For years together, not years, decades together, we write only one remark in Karo and Mahokaro that all the balances of debtors, creditors, lenders, depositors, etc. are subject to the confirmation. इतना ही हम remark लिख के छोड़ देते हैं. We are not even able to show कि हमने attempt किया है मिलने के लिए ये confirmation. That also is not there. Now then, those partners told me, sir, it was a very serious case. It was a CBI matter, and even the bank statements were fabricated. Because आजकल currency note भी अगर आप fabricate कर सकते हैं तो bank statement fabricate करने में क्या है? This is the reality of life. So it was done. Now I am coming to the distinction between the big, and they said we had not written to the debtors creditors. Friends, due diligence, other, if we had written to the debtors creditors, such a big scam would have been exposed much earlier. Since we never go to the this third party confirmation, and जितना बड़ा corporate उतना बड़ा accounting में miss. Take it from me. Not a single corporate will give you the confirmation. अपना your client is an SME. He depends on that corporate because he is one of the biggest customers of him. He cannot afford to argue with them that you give me the confirmation. And जितना बड़ा corporate उधर सब mess रहता है. Compliance, everywhere there is a mess. I had a lawyer client who was handling the matters of some big corporates, all listed companies, and not a single company had issued a correct TDS certificate to him. किसी दूसरे का TDS भी इसमें ही डाला था. तो इनकम टैक्स में आया, अरे आपका ग्रॉस फीस तो इतना पढ़ाया जाता है. His gross fees was in those years, for example, was 24 lakhs. He said आपका 80 lakhs है gross fees because of these TDS certificates. Because the big corporates had issued wrong TDS certificates, but we are not aware, we are not awakened. So all that we need to verify. Right? If you are signing, in that lawyer's case, I was not signing the balance sheet, so it was not a very big issue. So then, what was the so then they said, what is the difference? In so long as they have asked for the bank statements, you cannot say that they are grossly negligent. Because yes, they have done their duty. They have changed the bank statements and verified. But insofar as they had not written for third party confirmation, it was a lack of due diligence. I hope the distinction between gross negligence and lack of due diligence is clear. People are now, and many frauds are arising because not of your gross negligence, but because of your lack of due diligence. In many trust funds today, the cases are coming where the frauds are committed and the bank statements may, the entries are masked and xerox copies are taken. And we never asked as to why photocopies of bank statements are given. No, I want original bank statement. Investment documents of the trust, chartered accountants never verify. Trust में सब big faith में चलता है. So everything they say, no, it is a bank के लॉकर में हमारे fixed deposit receipts. Fixed deposit receipts are a few crores. And auditor, if anybody is doing no, he should be felicitated. अगर आपके ऑडियंस में से कोई फिक्स डिपॉजिट रिसीट्स या इन्वेस्टमेंट के डॉक्यूमेंट खुद पर्सनली वेरीफाई करता है तो you should have a scheme. Now I would suggest the JB नगर सर्कल, क्योंकि आप तो इतने इनोवेटिव है कि जो ideal things which are simple, which are simple things, whether these chartered accountants are doing, then that should be, or otherwise we can have a small bulletin, ये है किया है कि नहीं, आप देखो चेकलिस्ट एवरी मंथ, दैट शुड बी हैमर्ड. ओनली देन पीपल विल इम्प्रूव. तो अगर कोई ऐसा करता है, then felicitated in the sense because it is in the interest of the profession. And if we hold workshops of this, because all of this now, whatever I am sharing, it is not possible to share all the niceties also in the big gathering. Not that you invite me, you invite respective experts, but they should tell what exactly needs to be seen. At least once you are aware, then we will take steps to do that. Otherwise, we won't. And when the vulnerability has increased, up to the peak, it has reached the peak. So now everybody is exposed to all kinds of such complaints. Now I come to procedural aspect is okay. I have discussed it many times, but all said and done, you need to be always awake about the disciplinary aspect or the code of ethics aspect. There are two schedules to the act. First schedule lists down all the items which are normally of lesser gravity and which are within the profession. Means previous auditor's communication. On previous auditor communication also I can speak about 45 minutes to 1 hour because people have very vague concepts about previous auditor's communication. Then secondly, even whether previous auditors undisputed audit fees are paid or not is also a misconduct. But directors tell us because we wake up at the last 11th hour and then we don't verify that. Now your letter, how letter to the previous auditor should be written is also a matter of workshop. That we only write whether you have please issue NOC. Now NOC is never contemplated in the act. There is no such expression as no objection certificate. You mentioned that communication in writing. So what is important is communication in writing. And that we only send only when at the date of balance sheet. Now it should be done before accepting the audit, not before signing the balance sheet. But all that nobody does. Therefore, many complaints are coming on. This is the most common factor, previous auditor ka communication. Then there are certain principles which say that complainant need not come before the forum with clean hands. That means complainant can be a criminal person, he can be behind the bars. कोई भी आने दो, institute says we are not concerned with the complainant, we will only say whether our member is acting properly or not. It is first principle. Second principle, locus standi of the complainant is not important. So locus standi means anybody can file a complaint, whether you are concerned with that company or not, that also is immaterial. Thirdly, complaint, earlier it could not be withdrawn, but in between they are permitted to withdraw the complaint, but now again under the Amendment Act, they are saying now complaint cannot be withdrawn. So that is another thing. Next is, even if you compensate, whether because of your error anybody is aggrieved or not, or anybody has suffered or not, is also immaterial. I can give you two examples of that. You have signed a balance sheet, bank had given a loan to that particular client, that loan was properly squared up, properly serviced, closed. But if the banker notices that there was some flaw in your audit, he can still file a complaint. You cannot argue कि किसी का नुकसान नहीं हुआ. Charitable trust, you know, that charitable trust is 100% exempt. And it was established in 143(3) order. It was established again also in appeal. But there is some flaw in the balance sheet. There are 4 or 5 cases coming which have come like that. There was a flaw in the balance sheet. Then you don't get the protection of even 7 years. Because it is obvious that will which I told you, witness का sign किया था. It is obvious. No evidence is required. Self-evident है. आपकी बैलेंस शीट अगर टैली नहीं होती है, that also type of balance sheet I have seen. Now that is self-evidence too. That can be filed even after 17 years. Why 7 years? So the point which I was making was that trustee balance sheet may flaw, still then income tax department has filed cases on this. And there they go, since there is no loss to the revenue, they send it as information case. There are many information cases which are coming up. So that is another aspect. Now, another principle is whether you have compensated that party who have filed a complaint. Even then, you cannot undo what you have done. Therefore, your misconduct is crystallized. The moment you have committed that misconduct, it is crystallized. It cannot be undone by withdrawal of complaint or by compensating that person. So that is another aspect. All this you can share. I'll come to some 15 minutes service. Another type of complaints which are now coming is there is some project of the client, bank finance is there, payments are made directly by the bank to the vendors, and they ask for utilization certificate. Please be very, very cautious on this. There are 8 complaints which have come where the payment has gone to the vendor, but the auditor has not verified whether that particular equipment, machinery has been delivered, installed. Delivery challenge है क्या, erection का कुछ है क्या. There was a gymnasium, and they wanted to open gymnasium at 9 places, and the equipment they had ordered, gym ka, But the locations where it was to be installed, their interior work was pending. Bank issued the checks that 27 crores rupees to the vendors at 9 locations, 3 crores each was the equipment they had issued. Now banker का भी collusion रहेगा इसमें. But then, since it was never delivered, and now they have filed a complaint against the auditor because utilization certificate they are asking from this. So utilization certificate may you have to give a clear disclaimer either or you don't issue the certificate. Utilization certificate के आजकल 8-10 cases recently have come because the item was never delivered. Item was never verifiable कि वो इधर है कि नहीं है. So unless and इसमें बैंक की भी गलती है, but they are passing on the blame to the. You are getting trapped, friends. Don't be tempted by those fees which you might receive, because वो अगर 20 से 30 crores का उसका उसने अप्लाई किया that gymnasium reputed gym कंपनी है, 30 crores का गफला इसमें किया, बाकी किधर किया होगा मालूम नहीं. तो 30 crores के लिए आपको वो 5 लाख फी भी देगा यूटिलाइजेशन सर्टिफिकेट. But all this unless you verify, तो वेरिफिकेशन और सिंपल रहता है, इट्स नॉट दैट बिग थिंग. सिंपली राइट टू दोस चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट. एक बड़े ट्रस्ट अपना बड़े चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट में 2 boys, those were the sons of the sub staff. So out of the goodness of the auditors, they trained them how to write accounts वगैरह. One internal auditor, one statutory auditor, all for last 20 years, right since the inception of that particular trust, they are internal and statutory auditors, good persons. I know them, very nice person, very honest chartered accountants. But the boys whom they had trained, they were the accountants there. First 10 years, it was all smoothly going on. Last 10 years, those 2 boys have committed a fraud of 6 crore rupees. How? Fixed deposits, Jalgi may get them signed from the management. Now the next year he will only deliver this lecture because yesterday whatever content was there, he told me yesterday. But I'm very happy that he is one of the persons who tried to implement what I have been suggesting in the lecture. So that's a great thing. So this. What was that story? Not verifying the fixed deposit receipts. And every month or say 3 or 4 months in the year, the bank statements were bearing the masked entries, contra entries. So they were encashing that particular fixed deposit by obtaining signatures of the management, and they were exact amount they were withdrawing in their account. So contra entry हो जाता था, बैंक बैलेंस टैली हो जाता है. No, some girl, not very trained, girl was appointed in that account department, and she pointed out कि साल में 4-5 बार ये xerocopies of the bank statements क्यों है? From that it was exposed. अंदरूनी में एक क्लब था. I tell you the blessings of the COVID. अंदरूनी में एक क्लब था. 27 years में उधर एक मैनेजर था, वेरी ट्रस्टेड मैनेजर. नाउ तो क्लब का जो हॉल था, देयर बुकिंग फॉर एग्जांपल फॉर मेंबर्स वाज 10,000, फॉर नॉन मेंबर्स इट वाज 20,000. देयर वर 300 or 400 members. That manager, what he was doing when he, those were the days where normally cash डिजिटाइजेशन ऐसे कोई हुआ नहीं था. 10-20 हजार का हॉल का है तो लोग आज भी मैनेज का वगैरह एक्सपेंसेस पीपल प्रेफर टू डू इट इन कैश टू सेव जीएसटी और व्हाटएवर. सो इट वाज वेरी कॉमन. तो लोग क्या करते थे, 20,000 रुपए, नॉन मेंबर 20,000 रुपए देके बुक करता था. दैट मैनेजर यूज्ड टू पुट नेम ऑफ सम ऑफ द मेंबर्स और 10,000 का बुकिंग एंट्री करता था बैंक में. 10,000 वाज डिपॉजिटेड, रिसीट वाज गिवन ऑन 20,000. every form had to be approved, endorsed by the secretary. अभी secretary of that club इतना busy रहता है, अब manager ने verify किया है, तो he used to just put signature. When in COVID, all the hall bookings were cancelled, and the refund was to be given to the persons. They came, and everybody was getting only 10,000 instead of we have the receipt of 20,000. That time it was exposed. Now, remember friends, हम verification internal audit भी अच्छा था किया था. But what we do is we check the receipts, we check the bank entries. Original application form verify करना चाहिए and test check करना चाहिए whether it was from member or not. May not occur to us also. Are you appreciating this? तो इसलिए first we should also study वो जो fraud का book है ना, चेतन दलाल और इन लोग, how what type of fraud are done by bank entries, check transactions, how frauds are committed. In fact, that also people should be made aware so that at least you will get the direction of for verification. And why we cannot do all these things to 11 or 10:45. I'll say it, point it out. What was that I was telling? What kind of verification we should do? Bank statements. What should be the direction for our verification? क्योंकि fraud जो हो रहा है आजकल, because of कलयुग everywhere, every person is becoming dishonest, and they can afford to be dishonest, but who cannot? Because and what dishonesty? Because without proper verification we are signing. Now the last part I am coming. The difference, always I end with that particular example. आपको लगता है कि पूरा लीगलिटी है, लीगली एवरीथिंग इज परफेक्ट, दैट मीन्स यू आर ethical. But there is a difference between purely legalistic thing and ethics. Just to cut short, I will tell the story. A chartered accountant had a cousin who was a vagabond, was not a good person, but he came to him, to the chartered accountant, saying that I am having the film production project. I have 5 crores ka budget. You give me 50 lakhs ka check. Remaining thing I will raise from the market. In good faith, to help the cousin, although he knew that this cousin is not a good person, he gave a check of 50 lakhs. That person went from pillar to post, लेकिन उसको कुछ भी, not a single penny he could raise. But he was not a good person, so what he did, he deposited the check, got it dishonored, and filed a 138 complaint against the cousin chartered accountant. These things are happening regularly. Now, he was convicted, because it is very easy nowadays to purchase the decisions and orders. So he did it. Then the matter went to the disciplinary. Now, he had challenged it in the High Court, in the appeal. In the appeal, he had challenged this order of the magistrate. And perhaps he will succeed because of the facts and circumstances of the case. On facts, he may succeed. But suppose you have given a wrong advice because of which penalty under section 271C or whatever that concealment notice arises. Now you got that notice deleted, penalty deleted, because of some Kar Vivad Samadhan, you are doing managing, performing some Jadu Tona or magic, but you got the penalty dropped. So penalty is dropped, or some technicalities like notice is not proper or whatever. Notice penalty is dropped, but you had missed out on a particular provision of interest, for example, section 50C or 56, you had missed out. Thereby your advice was not proper. So misconduct is crystallized. Now, even if you say that मैंने wrong advice दिया लेकिन उसको penalty नहीं आया, that cannot be the defense. Similarly, what happens in the other laws is not a defense. The fact that you have given an incorrect advice itself is a misconduct. I hope you are understanding. So this particular check, I had issued a check without verifying whether the balance is there or not, because I had no need to verify them because I had given him only to help him. And it was never to be deposited. But you know that it was never to be deposited, but your check could have misled some other people. क्योंकि सीए ने से चेक दिया है उसके कजिन को तो जो भी होगा this is unethical. So legally there was nothing wrong, but ethically this was not correct. I hope I have made it clear. I also made the distinction between gross negligence and lack of due diligence. I have also emphasized the need for having such focused workshops to train our people because working paper and everything is now assuming too much of importance. Audit train. So unless we train our people properly, it's not going, and we should not take pride in holding seminars for students who are attended by 2,000 students. Chairman says, "अरे 2,000 students आए थे, ऐसे it is useless thing." Seminar में कुछ भी value addition नहीं मिलता है. What you have to need is a focused training. Without that, our survival is difficult. So मेरा lecture डरावना होगा, but it was necessary, and I thank for this. Once more every year, because people say we will give you once more until you sing properly. ऐसा singer को बोलते थे. So unless I speak properly, they will keep on giving me once more. But both difficult times are there. Please be awakened. Otherwise, there is no future. I don't say that there is future is gloomy. There is no future to the profession if we continue behaving like this. I thank the conveners. I thank all of you for a patient hearing. Or who have come for CP also, I am sure that they are not bored. Thank you very much and Jai Hind.
सर बोल रहे हैं कि unless he learns to sing properly. I think it's the other way around. Unless we learn to listen and follow properly. Yes, sir. So that is more important. देने वाले से ग्रहण करने वाले की भूमिका ज्यादा है यहाँ पे. So next, there's an announcement, small announcement, which I wanted to make. JB Nagar in association with WISC is organizing a seminar on AI on the 1st of December. And there has been a huge response from all the members. And unfortunately, JB Nagar quota is done. So anyone who is wishing to attend can register directly from the WIRC. And if there are seats permitted, then all the best. And now to propose a formal vote of thanks, I would call our past convener, our deputy convener, Kailash.
Good morning, friend. First of all, I request everyone to please cast your valuable votes on 6th and 7th December. As you see, minor percentage of increase of voting percentage in Maharashtra changed the full government. And our voting is always 85 to 90%. But this year we want JB Nagar Study Circle 100% voting should be done. And I also request you, not only you, आप अपने साथ में कम से कम अपने 5 दोस्तों को, रिश्तेदारों को लेकर के जाएं वोटिंग कराने के लिए. Friend, I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to our eminent speaker, CA Vaze. Thank you, convener madam, for giving me this opportunity. Friends, Vaze sir enlightened thinks every aspect on code of ethics, on working paper management, transparency and perspective in relation to CA in practice. What is permissible for practice in CA? What is not permissible? On behalf of JB Nagar CP Study Circle, I immensely thanks to Vaje sir for his efforts toward sharing his knowledge and elegance of explanation of everything on the above subject. I need to mention my deepest sense of appreciation. On behalf of Study Circle, I request all of you to give a lot of applause for them. Thank you. There is a short break for 15 minutes.